It is with much pleasure that we welcome the Honorable Prime Minister as our chief guest at our very special Business Leaders Summit. And of course, in following the customary practice, we begin with the national anthem. Sri Lanka Mata, Upper Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Namo. Sundara Sri Hari Surani Api Somanana Lamu. Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Namo. Upamaya Apabidya, Upamaya Apasatya, Upamaya Apashanti. Apahagakulabhakti, Upalapahanuki, Apadianuprani, Upalapajivanani, Apamukiyamupani, Navanjivanani, Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Greetings and welcome. And indeed, as we probably were able to discern from the images that were projected on the screen, there is burgeoning technology which occupies us and involves many people in our forward movement. There also has to be, likewise, a balancing factor and a concern for the softer things, the things of nature, and that's the idea. So, what's next? Well, as it has been much that has been spoken and discussed and even analyzed throughout the day at this Business Leaders Summit of CIMA, Sri Lanka. And it has also been understood that this imagery really has a great deal of sense as applied in the reality of life and business in this country. And we cannot ignore the one or the other. They both have to be able to move on. So what's next? Well, "You'll Never Walk Alone" was the theme that we heard in that beautiful song as sung by Dimitri Gunathilaka, who's a personality in theater in Sri Lanka, is also obviously a very qualified singer. She's been trained well, and she's also, by training, a lawyer by profession. Now, having said that, let's invite the chairperson of the Business Leaders Summit Committee, Manohari Abesekara, to come across the lectern for some introductory remarks and words of welcome. And we invite you to pay her heed as she speaks at this inaugural.
Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Chairman CIMA Methana Board, Kabir Yaqub, fellow CIMA board members, keynote speaker, Mr. Mohit Pandey, head of Google Cloud India, speakers, distinguished guests, members, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the CIMA Organizing Committee for the Business Leaders Summit, it is my pleasure that I welcome you all. This has been a day that we looked forward for the last 4 months, and my team has been tirelessly working with me to see this happen. The theme of the conference is What's Next on the Changing Business Landscape. And on the theme of digital revolution and disruption, we also thought technology itself is not going to be the per se. Technology aligning with sustainability. Our corporate leaders just need to know not just on profits, it needs to take care of our community as well as environment. Sri Lanka has seen unprecedented effects of climate change. We've seen droughts, we've seen flash floods, and that's our very nature that as corporate leaders, we should take care of our country's natural resources to take it to the next phase. I'm delighted to tell you that we have the world's most admired technology company, Google, which has a brand value of more than $100 billion, much larger than entire Sri Lanka GDP. And this is the first time that we have brought down Google to Sri Lanka in a public platform. And I thank Klehan, who has helped me in getting Google down. Thank you very much, Klehan. We had an interesting seminar in the morning, Prime Minister. We had thought leaders in the likes of Chris Dharmakirti. We had sustainability champions in terms of Dr. Ravi Fernando, Subramaniam Eswaran. We had scientists and innovators like Manchu Gunawardena from Slintech and Dr. Antilak Dissanayake. But the burning issue that all highlighted was that Sri Lanka is not really making use of our scientists and engineers. We are not making use of our natural resources. If you look at the entire day's conferences, the theme was, we are not using our graphites, we are not using the titanium, the ilmenite mines that we used to have. So it's all thought-provoking, and let's hope with the Prime Minister's vision for 2025, which was recently unveiled, we hope, sincerely hope, as young leaders, that we could take the country to this next phase of development, not just going out on the middle income trap, but taking our products, our value-added exports, going up in the value chain, creating brands that certainly Sri Lanka deserves. Thank you, and I look forward to all of you for an entertaining evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manohari, for summing everything up so comprehensively. It is time now to sound the keynote. Our keynote speaker is a computer engineer and an MBA by education and has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry across India and Southeast Asia.
And indeed, his career was begun as a software developer, but his work experience includes a lot more than that. It spans startups as well as companies such as Noel and Microsoft, and all of this prior to his joining with Google. And he has extensive experience working across tech and digital landscapes, and of course, has been busy in the entirety of the South Asian region and Southeast Asia as well.
In his current role, Mohit Pandey, he's the leader of the cloud business for Google in India, and he enjoys working with bleeding-edge technologies, some of which we've heard of, some of which we're going to hear of now, like machine learning and artificial intelligence. And he believes that the work that he's doing and that we all are doing today will shape the future for generations to come.
For generations to come. The keynote.
The Honorable Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, members of CIMA, and delegates. It's a matter of great pride and honor for me to be amongst all of you here today. I'm going to spend the next 20-odd minutes talking to you about how to build what's next. As was obvious in the welcome address right now, a lot of our efforts go around keeping the lights on and get the business going on as it is today. But I'm going to spend, like I said, the next couple of minutes talking about the disruption all of us are living in, the technology which enables this disruption, I'm going to talk about how the same technology enables a great platform for businesses to build for the future, and also talk about a few interesting case studies and use cases on how some companies have used this. And hopefully that should inspire all of us to look at technology in a way which helps us shape the future. Okay. Can someone help me change the slides, please? I don't know if this is working. But as the slides do come up, I would probably start off with a show of hands of any one of you who've heard of Pinterest. Has anybody in the audience heard of Pinterest? Okay, if it was a room full of teenagers, I'm assuming 100% of the hands would have gone up. Pinterest is a company which was formed about 5 or 6 years back. But it has already got a valuation of $12 billion. Compare that to News Corp, which has been a company in the traditional media and entertainment space for decades. Pinterest has got a valuation already more than of News Corp. Anybody heard of Airbnb? I'm assuming a slightly larger number of hands to go up here. Airbnb, again, a company which was formed about 7 or 8 years back, has got the same valuation of as Marriott, which has been one of the oldest companies in the hospitality industry. And I'm sure more hands will go up when I ask if anybody's heard of Uber. Quite a few of you would have, I'm sure. Uber's valuation is in the range of about $70 billion for a company which has been in existence for about 7 or 8 years, and is already significantly more than that of FedEx, which has been one of the largest logistics companies and has been in existence for, again, decades there. So what I'm just trying to say is that we are living in very, very interesting times. Internet and mobile are changing things significantly. The new generation of internet users are very different from the ones which we've seen over the last 10 or 20 years ago. There are many things which are shaping this difference. The first, most of the internet users now access internet using mobile. So mobility is a big, big enabler. A lot of these internet users are young internet users. In countries like Sri Lanka, in countries like India, in emerging markets, it is forecasted that most of the internet users using internet on mobile will be of less than 25 years of age. They live in urban populations. They are cost conscious. They earn probably less than their counterparts in the US and the mature economies, but they are not poor, which essentially means that they are very discerning. And they are essentially shaping some of this disruption, whether it's in the area of e-commerce, whether it's in the area of ride sharing. They consume video entertainment. They are doing mobile payments. And all of this is really providing a great platform, an ecosystem for the disruption, some of which I spoke about. So some of the trends which we see in the digital ecosystem are very obvious. You all probably know about that. One, local language is gaining prominence, which essentially means that English, which used to be the primary form of internet consumption, content consumption, is changing. We are getting users whose first primary language is not English to come onto the internet, which essentially means that the devices which they use and the content which they consume is in local language. And hence, if you need to connect with that audience, I think having a local language framework is very, very important. Mobile, like I already mentioned, is becoming a significant enabler in the disruption which we are seeing. One of the big things that's disrupting is payments. We are already seeing how electronic payments are increasing multifold and exponentially because of mobile phones. Banks, government frameworks, etc., are all getting linked to an identity on the mobile, which allows secure, fast, scalable payment systems. Online content, including video, entertainment, is thriving. That is one of the major forms of why people choose to come to the internet, whether it's watching videos, sharing photos, streaming media, etc. And what it really means is also that it's not just the device of consumption, but also the broadband, which enables all of these, whether it's fixed line broadband, mobile broadband, is growing significantly. And obviously, shopping, e-commerce, transactions on the internet are also something which is really, really growing exponentially. At Google, with a mission of ensuring that we have internet available to everyone, we do take a lot of initiatives. Some of these which I've mentioned here are what we are driving in India. First, for example, access to internet. In emerging markets like Sri Lanka, like India, we do have challenges of good quality broadband internet access available to people. That is probably the biggest barrier why people aren't able to get to internet. In India, for example, we have tied up with Railtel to provide high quality, fast broadband internet at 400 railway stations in India. Now that's a great example. We have already completed this project with over 150 railway stations, and we see that over 5 to 6 million people come online onto this framework every day. In fact, our research also tells us, as we move around this initiative, there are about 1,500 people who access internet for the first time every day using this framework. What we've also started doing is building for the local markets. In the markets like Sri Lanka, like India, like some of the emerging markets we are used to being in, the products need to be localized. So this has led us to build products like YouTube offline. We all do know that our networks are very patchy. We are still in the process of building this. And hence, we built a product called YouTube Offline, where people with low or no bandwidth could download networks when they are in a good quality Wi-Fi network and watch it when they are offline. We've also built products like Chrome Offline, which allows people to view pages when they do not have any internet access. SMBs, small and medium businesses, are the lifeline of a country like ours. It is very important that we get internet to enable businesses for these SMBs, and hence we have taken a very big initiative to get SMBs online. And when I say get SMBs online, which essentially means that as more and more consumers come online, they search for products and businesses, these SMBs should be able to be found there, which means, are they available on their maps? Do they have a website? Can they be found when people search for these businesses? So we have taken a big initiative to get SMBs online. One of the other barriers for people to access internet is skills. People do not know how to access internet. Businesses do not know what to do with their businesses when they get them online. And hence, it is very important for us to skill individuals, skills businesses, and skilled developers to ensure that there is a high quality ecosystem. We are living in an app economy, and hence it is very important for us to ensure that there are good quality apps which are available. And hence, for example, Android skilling is a very, very big initiative which we have undertaken. And digitizing rural India, again, it's a matter of access. A large part of urban cities are already coming online because they do have access to good quality internet devices and content. But as we move into the rural areas, we do see that first there is a demographic shift, and secondly, there's a big challenge in terms of access. And hence, we are running programs like Internet Sathi to ensure that rural women get trained, have access to mobile phones and tablets, and can access internet. No wonder, with such a large amount of disruption which is happening in the business, 70% of the CEOs see technology change as the #1 force that can impact their organization. in the next few years. This is what probably keeps a lot of you sitting in the organizations, sitting a lot of you in the audience, giving you sleepless nights as to what do we do to ensure that we are ahead of the technology curve. And this is not for no reason. This graph shows the average age of a company joining the Standards & Poor's 500. S&P 500 has been a benchmark for many number of years of the world's largest, best companies. About 60 years back, the average age of a Standards & Poor's company was 75 years. Cut to 2015, the average age is just 10 years. That essentially says that the pace of obsolescence of companies is increasing significantly. We do not even know who is our next competitor. In fact, when you talk to some of our founders, Larry Page, according to him, it's not the large conglomerates which he's really worried about. He's probably worried about the next set of teenagers sitting in a garage, working on the next business idea, which could disrupt any traditional business. And all of that is just happening because of the pace of technology. So as we saw in the consumer world, there are major shifts which are impacting businesses as well. Everyone and everything is connected, which essentially means that today we have an explosion of data. We have sensors which measure our sleep time, which measure our steps which we take, which talk about how many kilometers which we've driven, the condition of our cars. Data is just growing exponentially and everything is connected. And this is happening because of several reasons. Right? The cost of sensors has gone down dramatically. The cost of data has gone down dramatically. Cost of computing has gone down dramatically. All of this really kind of means that today we are able to create an ecosystem where we are living in a connected world. Machines are getting smarter. They are able to process data at unprecedented speeds. So the earlier, earlier machine revolution was largely to augment power systems. So they were basically used to lift things, build things, manufacture things. They were basically used, and humans were basically augmenting some of those processes. But today we are living in a world where machines are getting into such a state in terms of computing power, where they are helping us drive decision making, cognitive decisions, and that is the birth of artificial intelligence and machine learning. There's significant demand shifts in geos and demographics. One of the largest generations of the under 25 people, the millennials as we call it, is probably entering a stage where they will start spending. Now they are very, very different than what we've seen generations spend on. Like I said, they, for example, are very discerning. We are now moving into a sharing economy where people do believe that instead of owning assets, it is better to share assets. And that is why we see things like ride sharing, etc., coming onto the rise. We are also seeing demand shifts in geographies where emerging markets, because of a large population, which used to be a challenge for us, is becoming a big boon because we are becoming a consumption economy as well. And obviously, the acceleration of disaggregation and mass customization. While we'll talk about mass production, but people are looking at personalization, but personalization at a cost which is low, which is really a dichotomic situation to be. I need personalization, but I need it at a low cost. We've been used to a system where any kind of customization or personalization has to be costed high. So these are some of the major shifts which are impacting businesses, and all of it is really on the basis of a big technology disruption which all of us are going through. So what do we do to be able to keep pace and really build for the future? Every company is or will need to become a data company. Data, if used properly, is probably the biggest disruptor. And multiple amount of research has shown that companies which will be able to manage data will be able to manage the disruption in a much, much better way. They will be able to grow and thrive in today's age. If we look at what really is a data company, it is a company where employees or people use data to make decisions. And it is not about building a report, on a weekly, monthly, fortnightly basis. It is about having the right data available to people who make the decision at the time when they're making the decision. And not all of them are data scientists, which essentially means you have to democratize data for people to be able to synthesize it, use it as and when they want to, and hence build simplicity into it. So there are two ends of the spectrum. At one end, data is growing exponentially. It's very complex, but at the other end, as consumers, we have to simplify it for them. But there are many, many challenges with data. And now I'm getting into a little bit of a technical framework, which I'll try and breeze through to come to the case studies. But some of the challenges which probably all of you have seen with data. One is that we built legacy applications. Now, each one of these applications has been built over a period of time, maybe decades. In today's world, they are probably not scalable. They are probably not secure. There are data silos everywhere because we built multiple applications. We've got data which comes from our sales reports, from our inventories, from our ERPs, from all sources, but it is all sitting in disparate positions. To make any sense of data, and especially for it to be able to give us decision-making capability, we need to get that data together. Changing view on the value of data. We do not know the data which we have today. Is it valuable for tomorrow or not? What do we do with such data which we are getting? Where do we store it? It costs money. That decision to whether to junk that data or to keep it with me and which form should I keep it is a big challenge. Regulatory environment. We are all moving into an environment which is highly scrutinized. We need to be very careful on issues like security, privacy, etc., which makes it a little bit more complex on what can we do with data. And lastly, but probably not the least, is limited skills and availability. We all know that data scientists costs a lot of money. They are not very easily available. And people who are able to build systems which can enable machine learning, artificial intelligence, etc., are not very easy to come across. At Google, we know this really well. We were born as a data company. We were born in the cloud. If you look at our mission statement, organize world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This was our defining statement, guiding statement 19 years back when the company was started. And this is the same mission which continues to drive us today as well. But if you kind of just peel the onion here, you will find out that this is really about managing large amounts of data and getting intelligence in that. Over the last 19 years, starting with a simple search engine, Google has grown to a place where we have 7 products which have got over 1 billion users each. Now, it's not the scale of these products which is interesting, but I think in the context of what we are talking today, it is the platform which powers these products which makes it more interesting. Just think about this. Google search powers trillions and trillions of searches every year, more than half of it now coming from mobile phones. We've had to build machine learning and artificial intelligence into it right from very early days so that it was more contextual for people and hence it was more relevant. YouTube, for example, has got 400 hours of video uploaded every minute. For us to be able to handle large parts of data and allow people to search videos and get recommended videos means that there's a lot of technology which undergoes backend. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that stuff which seems to be very simple for consumers, which can be worked out on a mobile phone, has got a very vast, complex underlying technology framework which powers that. Google Play is an interesting example. Last year, we had over 80 billion app downloads happening on the Play Store, which is like almost 11 apps per living human being on the earth at that scale. So just quickly, this is what I just spoke about is basically the framework of Google Cloud, which powers not just Google's own product, but today allows you, companies like you, to also build your ecosystems on the same platform. We invest a lot of money, like in the last 3 years, we've invested over $29 billion into building this infrastructure, which is data centers and cloud regions and undersea cables and fibers running all over. This is the same platform which powers companies like Snapchat. Again, a lot of you in the audience probably have heard of that, a company which went from 0 to 25 billion in a matter of less than 5 years. Again, not to confuse you all with technical aspects, but really Google Cloud Platform consists of a plethora of offerings, which allows you to use infrastructure as a service. So today, if you are planning to build your next startup or a big ecosystem which can power your large enterprise, you do not need to put in capital investment into building data centers and buying large computers and storage and etc. Today, you have infrastructure available to you as a service. Today, there is storage available to you as a service. And once you have all of that, you can use this infrastructure with software available to you as a service, which allows email, collaboration, productivity on the go for you. You're paying for all of this as you go. So what I'm trying to tell you today is that this big technology shift which is happening allows companies to not put lock-in capital into building infrastructure, but really use OpEx for all of this and really put in money to where you think you need to develop your business. What this also means is that today, any startup has got the same access to technology as any large, established, decades-old company. The entry barriers have got lowered significantly. Earlier, the CapEx investment used to be an entry barrier. That has gotten lowered significantly. Cloud allows you to lower the cost of failures, which essentially means that earlier, to try out anything new, you would have had to worry about a lot of CapEx investment. The cost of failures were very high. What if this idea did not work? Right now, it is pay as you go, which essentially means that you try out 10 ideas, 9 of them did not work. It's fine because you did not lose too much of money. But the 10th which worked allowed you to build the next billion-dollar business. And just a quick view of some of the largest companies globally which have gone on the cloud using some of these platforms across industries. Some of the largest banks like HSBC use cloud platform, including things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to solve a variety of problems. For example, ensuring regulatory compliance. For example, ensuring fraud detection. So HSBC, for example, works with Google on this platform to take signals from many data sources to figure out what could be the probability of frauds onto some of the transactions. Companies like Verizon, which is one of the largest telcos globally, has used cloud software as a service on G Suite to power email collaboration for over 150,000 employees. They did not set up data centers to do this. They straight went onto the cloud. So how do we help you build to become a data company? First, better global network infrastructure. Obviously, that is very, very important because the network needs to be fast, it needs to be secure, it needs to be scalable, because you are probably building a company which is global in nature. You're not building a company just for the neighborhood. Or even if you are, it needs to be secure. It needs to have better artificial intelligence and data analytics capabilities, and obviously help you as a company to engage with each other on a better collaborative platform at a cost which is affordable, and obviously getting you the support and services which you need to build this. I'll skip through this again. This is just a quick view of a representative view of the kind of infrastructure which Google has built in. To be able to offer you some services, a company like Google probably has put in huge amount of money to build the world's largest cloud network. We are also running this on the world's largest network, which includes undersea cables, oversea cables, points of presence. We are investing a lot into this region. We've already opened data centers in Taiwan, Tokyo, Singapore, Sydney, and should be announcing one in Mumbai really, really soon, which essentially means that we're coming very, very close to where you are, coming very close to where your customers are, making cloud more easily accessible. What happens when you move your data to the cloud? As our CEO, Sundar Pichai, says, machine learning is a core transformative way by which we are rethinking how we are doing things. The last 10 years was really about building a mobile-first world. But as we move, the next 10 years, we think the shift will be towards an AI-first world, which essentially means that companies which are able to take advantage of data and build artificial intelligence out of that are the ones which will probably have a competitive advantage. But what is machine learning, which is probably the first step towards artificial intelligence? Machine learning is really three things. Machine learning is about having lots of data. It's about having a good algorithm and having a computing power to change, to train those machines. Essentially, it means that, as an example, you are able to show an image of a cat to a machine, and it says that it is a cat. But it also gives it a lot of other attributes. It can tell you which kind of a cat it is, what color of the cat it is, which location it is there. So essentially, it makes sense out of unstructured data. And most of the data which we see today is unstructured. We are moving from a place where we had structured data, which is like sales records, company records, etc., to a place where we are talking about unstructured data, which is speech, which is handwriting recognition, text, languages, images, video. Like I mentioned earlier, there's an explosion of such kind of data. And how do we ensure that we use this unstructured data, which is very tough for us to make sense of, overlay it with some of our structured data and train our machines to be able to take decisions on the basis of that? And how do we make it simple and easy for you to be able to do that? Because not all of you here are machine learning scientists, but all of you here are probably running businesses which need this. At Google, we've been applying machine learning for a very, very long time into building our own products. And like I said earlier, and that has been one of the reasons why we've been able to create a plethora of products. A lot of these products you use in your daily lives. Let's take an example of email. A couple of years back, email was predicted to be dead because of the number of spam messages which we used to get. Spams in our email inbox used to be X number of times more than the relevant messages which we could get. Look at your email inbox today. Machine learning allows us to identify what kind of messages based on number of signals are that this could be a spam, and puts it into your spam folder, which allows you to have a clean view of the messages which you really need. Look at YouTube, for example. Out of all the videos which are there, 400 hours of video uploaded every minute, YouTube, on the basis of your viewing history, on the basis of where you are, your location, what you've been doing, starts recommended videos to you, which is probably making a lot of sense. Look at Google Photos. Images has been a big problem for us to solve for a very long time. Just storing images and then retrieving images or photos used to be a big challenge for us. But today, if any one of you do use Google Photos on your Android or iPhones, would probably know that it not just backs up and stores your photo, but you could probably search for photos like, get me photos of me in a beach in a red shirt, and it will actually throw you out that. So it is probably just making sense of spoken English to get images out of that. All of these are great examples of machine learning, which we see in our daily lives. Machine learning is serious stuff, but it also is quite fun. For example, this was quite an interesting thing which broke the internet a couple of years back. A woman had posted this photo on her Facebook page, and the internet just went crazy, getting confused that is it Tom Hanks or Bill Murray. But if it was today, and with all our machine learning algorithms, the ML algorithm would have very clearly identified that this was Bill Murray. he is in a St. Andrews golf course, and it has many other tags onto that. So today, machine learning allows us to solve great problems in that sense. Again, a slide which I'll skip back really fast. What it really means is that today, machine learning has been democratized. So whether you are a developer or you are a business which just needs to use things like image recognition or getting intelligence out of videos or really getting sentiment analysis. I'll give you a few examples of that. You could use pre-trained APIs. So Google has trained those APIs. So Translate, for example, you do not need to build an ecosystem to translate or to build a translate engine. Google has done that for you, or an image recognition engine. So you could just use them. Or to the other end, where you really are, let's say, into weather forecasting, or you are into deep level of mining and you need your own data to be able to train your own machine, you could do that as well at a fraction of cost because everything is on the cloud. Machine learning use cases are many. So whether you are a retail company or you're a government organization or a healthcare company, machine learning is there for everyone today. So if you're into retail, you could do predictive inventory planning on the fly. You could use recommendation engines for your customers, that what could be the next logical purchase. If you're into travel and hospitality industry, you could do dynamic pricing based on the number of searches the user has done, where is he searching from, the current pricing. In energy, like some of the smart cities are doing, they are taking a lot of data from various sensors, traffic lights, etc., and they are really driving smart city management. They could do smart traffic management. They are looking at crime prevention and control. They are looking at reduction in energy. So machine learning has got wide-ranging applications. Like I said, anything, any field which has got a lot of data and can be used to train machines will have an application of machine learning. I'll probably now take a few good examples to show on how machine learning is impacting real life work. Descartes Labs is a company based out of New Mexico, and they had a vision, a very bold vision of really creating a living atlas of the world. What they did really was that they took the last 40 years of satellite imagery and put that on the cloud. And in fact, that was also quite interesting because that's huge amount of data, but because of the power of cloud, they were able to do it in a matter of days, not in a matter of months. And after that, what they started doing was they started taking weather data and daily satellite imagery on a daily basis, and were able to predict the crop yields on corn, soy, etc., in a matter of days, whereas the US Department of Agriculture would take months to be able to predict crop reports. What the USDA would do is they would send out a survey to farmers, and on the basis of that, they would try and say what could be the crop yield like. But because of the tech platform, Descartes Labs is able to do it in a much, much faster way and a much more accurate way as well. Global Fishing Watch, again, is an NGO with a goal of really finding out that how does human interaction with oceans happens, and they are really focused on ensuring that we are using our resources in a much, much more meaningful way, and using millions and millions of imagery of sailboats, of oceans across the world. They are able to now also identify illegal operations of fishing across, and a great example is in Kiribati. They were able to provide prosecution of illegal fishing as well. Again, a great example of how machine learning impacts real life. Ocado is the world's largest online-only retailer, and the point I'm making is that while these are specific examples in specific industries, just try and see how these could be applicable into your own businesses or own industries as well. On the example of Ocado, for example, they are an online-only retailer. They do not have stores. They have got over 500,000 monthly active consumers who do buy stuff from them. This is based out of Europe. And for them, it becomes significantly harder because they do not see a customer. They do not get direct feedback from them. The customers only give them feedback by either giving them a phone call or tweeting about it or writing an email there. They've used machine learning algorithms to be able to get all the feedback together into one source, and they do sentiment analysis on that. Sentiment analysis essentially means that once a phone call has been converted into text or an email or a tweet comes in, they are able to figure out whether the customer is happy or unhappy. Obviously, they are very happy when they get positive feedback and they go back to that customer. But more importantly, when they get negative feedback, they're able to react much, much faster. Now, for an online-only retailer to be able to give this kind of customer service is incredible. Now, just see and extrapolate it. This could be applicable for any business. This could be applicable for a government service. This could be applicable for a public service, for us to be able to take direct feedback. Airbus Defence and Space, again, a company into aviation, uses a lot of maps to be able to give services to companies around building aircrafts, monitoring the environment. And they used to have a big challenge on the accuracy of satellite imagery. For example, in these photographs, it was very tough to identify out of the satellite imagery that whether these are snow-capped mountains or these are clouds. They used to spend millions of dollars to be able to kind of identify and get more accurate results. And they used to spend months and months on that. Using machine learning, they are able to reduce their error rates significantly, and now their output is available to them in a matter of days, and they don't spend millions of dollars on this as well. Now again, try and extrapolate that. This could be done with anything which needs weather or climate related information, and you could probably, if you have enough data, you'd be able to apply that into any business scenario as well. With that, all I wanted to say was that there is a paradigm shift of business which is happening today. There is a lot of disruption which is happening today. Cloud, mobile, internet, digital is a big, big enabler, but it is also an enabler for us to build services for the future. As I said in the beginning, to build what's next. The time to do it is now. The data is available to us now. There is enough computing power. There is enough intent with our consumers, and I think it is all in the right intent that we should be able to adopt some of these technologies and act now on that. Thank you so much.
Possibilities, possibilities, possibilities. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohit Pandey, for sharing those insights.
It's interesting that technology, while it is ubiquitous now, and a great tool and enabler, as we've seen from some of the examples that Mr. Pandey shared with us just now, it's not an end in and of itself. Harnessing it and using it creatively is what drives disruption, and so competitive advantage. Our chief guest has demonstrated much interest in the development of that advantage for Sri Lanka, and his commitment has been to exploring all avenues that add value.
So it's with much pleasure that we invite your attention as the Honorable Prime Minister addresses this audience.
The President of CIMA, Sri Lanka, my colleague Ravi Karanayaka, distinguished speakers and friends. I've been asked to say a few words after all the specialists, the change in business landscape. I've listened to Mohit Pandey and what says of what the future will be. I was told that the questions that were asked in the morning. So before you ask what is next, I must also tell you what was the past. The past will give you a better understanding of the economy and what the future will hold. Because at the end of the day, that is what matters. You have to come down to rupees and cents. And how do we run this? How do you run your businesses? And how do people benefit? It's within that environment that we look at how we can go forward. What the government can do is to create the framework. It's for you all to decide how you innovate, how you use technology, and how you develop. For we have to understand one issue. The economy is central to everything we do. Your changing business landscape is tied to it. It's not free of it. For too many years, our country suffered as public funds were abused and misappropriated. The previous government failed entirely to put in place and implement an economic policy that would bring stability and inclusive growth to Sri Lanka. The blood was sucked of our country, leaving massive structural problems that would limit growth and development across our nations. These are issues we are actively addressing in government today, and issues I am pleased to say we are making excellent progress. If your economy doesn't tick, there is nothing very much the rest of you can do. When we came to government in 2015, we found an economy that was on the brink of collapse as debt strangled our public finances to a breaking point, leaving no money for anyone and leaving our economy in serious danger. But today we sit in a far stronger position. Our debt has been stabilized and we are working to strengthen our revenues so that we can increase our spending on core areas like housing, education, and stimulating the private sector. It has only been with our economic plan that we have been able to start making a difference in our people's lives. Reduce the debt also makes Sri Lanka attractive to international investors and creates certainty in the Sri Lankan economy. Under the previous government, the revenue gap more than tripled in 10 years. Government revenue gap widened between 2003 and 2014 from 165 billion rupees to 601 billion. That is an astonishing 264% increase. In fact, the debt servicing alone took up a staggering 89% of government revenue. In the years between 2005 and 2019, the debt stock increased by over 233%. This terrible debt burden had to be tackled, and we had to put in place a plan to ensure that the primary deficit would be curtailed drastically so that we would have a surplus by 2020. In 2014, Sri Lanka's primary deficit was 1.5% of the GDP. By 2016, we had brought it down to 0.2%. The government is breaking the revenue debt service deadlock. Under the previous regime, debt repayments exceeded government revenue. In 2013, debt repayments worth 1.147 trillion exceeded the government revenue of 1.137 trillion. In 2006, the debt repayments totaled 1.352 trillion, while the government revenues was 1.686 trillion. Just a slight breather, nothing else. So this is where we are today. We had to take many steps for it, including my colleague who was formerly heading the Ministry of Finance. We had to lower the budget deficit. We had to increase the government revenue. We are reforming the state-owned enterprises. There has been a new Inland Revenue Act with new incentives, which will give you as much as 200 to 300% depreciation. A new Foreign Exchange Act repealing the Exchange Control Act. a national debt management strategy, targeting for low inflation and flexible inflation points, a market-based exchange rate, reforming the trade regime by liberalizing it, the anti-dumping legislation. That's a crucial point. If we can hold our debt and hold our budget for the next 2 years, we get through. Because the highest debt servicing payments are coming in the next 2 years. So our total energy is going to for implementing our debt management strategy. And where does growth come? We have changed the total policy, trying to use commercial debt to have government-funded infrastructure to drive growth, which never worked, to putting the responsibility on all you ladies and gentlemen here and the others in the private sector. Go for growth. So we are now looking how can we unleash the potential of the Sri Lankan entrepreneur. How do we encourage private foreign direct investment? With GSP Plus, you have 6,000 items to export. I don't think we are even sending 60 to the European Union. The new ease of doing business law. We want to remove the anti-export bias in the trade regime. Increase the competitiveness of Sri Lankan enterprises and facilitate investments. These are the nuts and bolts of the whole strategy. If we don't do this, we will be nowhere. But having said this, of what we are going to do in the next 3 years for growth, we want you all to expand. What are our advantages? We have to go by comparative advantages, and the future depends on technology and innovation. You saw before me how different the world will be. Where are we? The area we live between Iran and Indonesia will have at least a minimum of 500 million more people by 2050. It's not only adding population. Remember, more and more will come out of poverty. So this is the market to be in. Just imagine providing higher education for all these people. Not only look at East Africa. So here in the Indian Ocean will be a new growth center. You find China coming in with one belt, one road. You find Japan coming in with the two oceans strategy. Why? Because we matter. Remember this. It's here that you can make your money. The future equity intern is the man who stays here or the woman, not the one who goes about. But to do so, we have to do our part, you have to do your part. While we do this policy, there is also the hard infrastructure. So we want to make Sri Lanka the hub of the Indian Ocean. Connectivity, logistics, make this a place. And that's what we are driving at. And the first area is the Southwest Corridor, starting from Kandy, which is now being developed as an industrial city for technology with the Japanese assistance, coming down the much discussed Central Expressway, of which I have been abused roundly in the last 2 weeks. The new industrial estates and the resorts of Northwestern Province, down to the megapolis here, down into the large industrial estate that's coming in Kalutara, the high-end tourist resorts, and the industrial estates in Galle and part of Mathar, and the remainder, the utilization of the port in Hambantota, which is no longer a white elephant, and the airport, with which we are also discussing. We hope by end of the year, we will have a public-private venture all the way up to Vellavai. That's where population is, that's where growth. We are planning out for Trincomalee. So this is where the hard infrastructure comes. It's up for you to do the rest. Well, are you staying in the traditional areas where there are a lot more that can be done with tea? That we just can't stay with tea or rubber, with apparels only. So this is where all the incentives are being given to you now. Go and start out. We realize that as far as those who are in the technology and innovation field, it's not depreciation that matters. So we brought in the new incentives for you all based on your wage bill for you all to come forward. That's what matters. Promote innovation. We are already taking many measures, some with American universities, some with Japan, others who come along. But we are living in a changing world. And knowledge matters. So we are looking at 13 years of school education. And how do you go out of that? We want tablets to be given to everyone in the last 2 years. Starting from next year, your A-level classes, everyone to have a tablet. Whether you are in the academic field or in the upper secondary, vocational field, everyone to have a tablet. We gave free books in 1981, 80. Now we want to ensure the tablets, but that's what matters. You will find the innovations coming after that. The free Wi-Fi program, sending it out to villages. I said wherever there is a Madhya Mahavidyalaya or a college, there has to be Wi-Fi. The young generation must have that. So that is the change we are making. Moving along into digitalization, pushing it at our end. But then it's up for you all to respond. See what you are going to do. Manufacturing has to come in, but we want product-driven. We are now a middle-income country. We want a product-driven, producer-driven products. Sorry. We haven't got very many at our time. Last week, the per capita GDP of Bangladesh exceeded that of Pakistan. They left Pakistan because they said they are much poorer than Pakistan. So you can't stay in one place. You can't stay in one place. So we have to exploit the opportunities we have. This is the last chance we have. As one of these days, Bangladesh will overtake us in the per capita GDP. And we have only got ourselves to blame. Every opportunity in hand. So the private sector and the public sector has to get together. And this is a wonderful opportunity because we have a national government. We have the unthinkable. The two main parties getting together. President Maithripala Sirisena at the head. So that we could put these policies into place. And thereafter, even if you go back, when we go back to party politics, we will be more like Germany than those Sri Lankans. There will be times when we are separate. There will be times that we have to get together. So political stability is important. Economic stability is important. But those alone are not sufficient if you don't have the enterprise. And in a change in business landscape, that changes help us. Actually shifting the potential from the West to where we are. Look at India and China, the growth. All this technology, all this business landscape means that we can do this at home. Industrial revolution started in the West, but the next one starts in here. So all I can tell you is, we are doing our best, you do our best, and the country will have the best. Thank you.
We'd like the Prime Minister to remain on stage just for a brief moment, so long as it takes to have a token of appreciation handed to our keynote speaker today, Mr. Mohit Pandey. And we also have a plaque that goes with it. So there we are. Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And thanks, Ms. Pandey, once again, our keynote speaker. And so it is that we have an artistic intervention.
What is it?
The brothers Gershwin wrote this a long time ago. Ethel Merman made it very famous, and she's got rhythm.
Not you.
Not I. Oh, we refer to Dimitri.
Maybe after then.
I've got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I've got daisies in green pastures, I got my man who could ask for anything more. All my troubles, all my need, you will find here around the door. I've got starlight, I've got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more. I've got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my man who could ask for anything more. All my troubles, all my pain, you will find it around the door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more. Thank you. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you to Dimitri. We enjoyed that very much and couldn't ask for anything more. Now, our platinum sponsor for the Business Leaders Summit has been Janashakti Insurance, and we hear from the CEO now, Mr. Jude Fernando.
Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished speakers, distinguished invitees, my fellow CIMA members, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to address you all this evening at end of a day full of rich conversations and knowledge sharing. It has been an enlightening day, listening to excellent panel of speakers throughout the technical session in the morning, the keynote address by Mr. Pandey, where he basically told us how the technology is going to change our lifestyle and the world, and the speech of the Prime Minister sharing his vision for Sri Lanka. I'm sure all the participants have gained immensely through the wealth of knowledge that has been shared throughout the summit and take back the learnings to your organizations. The world today is constantly changing, which makes it critical for all of us as business leaders to reflect on how we want to grow our businesses. In recent years, we have seen the world experience major social, political, economical, and environmental changes. From socio-political shifts such as the Brexit and the recent US election, to natural disasters like the flood, which is the whole world is experiencing, the world businesses had to deal with the impact of unprecedented global events. In addition to these, we have seen large-scale social trends, such as increasing influence of the millennial generation and widespread digitalization, where Mr. Pandey basically explained us in detail. These have changed basically how the businesses are done in the world. At Janashakti too, we are now gearing ourselves to become a future-proof organization, developing new business models and setting up systems and processes that are geared to meet the evolving need of our customers and to generate far greater wealth to our stakeholders. What is next is unknown to all of us. In this backdrop, we are privileged to partner CIMA Business Leaders Summit in 2017, as this topic is of significant strategic relevance, not only for us as an organization, but to all of us as business leaders and business professionals. All the speakers today contributed significantly to driving this conversation forward within Sri Lankan business landscape, and I hope all the discussions will help to create a step change in how we collectively do business in Sri Lanka. I want to take this moment to thank CIMA for inviting Janashakti to continue this partnership for the third consecutive year, and my sincere congratulations goes to the committee headed by Manohari, who has done an excellent job of organizing this insightful summit. I know the committee has gone into details for the last 4 months or so, worked so tirelessly to make this event a success. And on behalf of all of us who gained immensely out of the knowledge that was shared throughout the day, I want to congratulate and thank the team, and also all those who are at CIMA office who contributed immensely to make this day a success. Thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks very much, Jude. Jude Fernando.
Would like to now call as presenters, because thanks indeed are due, Ms. Manohari Abhisekara, the chairperson of the CIMA Business Leaders Summit Committee, and Mr. Kabiruzaman Yaqub, the chairman of the Messana Regional Board, to give away tokens of appreciation to some people who really deserve appreciation today.
Indeed, those that have contributed generously in their role as sponsors. So may we have the both of you up on stage. Thanks. And so we start off with the platinum sponsor, Janashakti General Insurance. And obviously, Jude, thank you. We'll have to come back up on stage. CEO, Janashakti PLC. That's the platinum sponsor.
Thanks now to the silver sponsor, and that's Haley's PLC. Invite Mr. Akmal Latif,
The senior executive of Haley's PLC.
That's our silver sponsor.
Bronze sponsor, Hamidia Group, and we call Chintaka Vanagasekara, the general manager.
For other bronze sponsor, Prime Lands Private Limited, we invite Mr. Warren Vandersay, a senior business development manager.
And we do have a third bronze sponsor in the shape and form of Bank of Ceylon, and we'd like to invite a representative thereof, please.
And we invite to come forth from our fourth bronze sponsor, which is CHEC Port City Colombo Private Limited, Mr. Tulsi Aluvihare, the head of Strategy and Business Development. Thank you very much to you too.
Then we have an associate sponsor, Iron One Technologies Private Limited, and the head of delivery, Mr. Tarindu Vikramasekara, is invited.
Another associate sponsor now, Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, and we'd like to ask a representative, please, to come up.
Demos, no one quite present now, so we move to our next associate sponsor, Guardian Equity Asset Management Limited. Thank you.
And now thanks to our next associate sponsor, Richard Pierce Distributors Limited. I'd like to ask a representative to receive a token on their behalf. And they are represented.
And yet another associate sponsor was Capital Alliance Private Limited. I'd like to invite a representative from there. Capital Alliance, thank you. Okay, thanks to our official print media partner, Vijaya Newspapers Limited. Vijaya Newspapers Limited.
And then to our official print partner, Cafe Pixel.
Not be present for some reason, so to education media partner Learn TV, who have captured the entirety of the proceedings morning and evening, and it will be broadcasted. So Learn TV, I know they have a representative here. There we are.
Also an electronic media partner, Ada Derana. Thanks to them, and we'd like to invite a representative to receive the token.
Another media partner in Art TV. Do we have a representative from there? Cannot be, we haven't seen anyone pop up quickly. So the official electronic partner, Dialogue TV.
And now to the creative partner, Sarva Integrated Private Limited.
Which then leaves us with our official logistics partner, Haley's Advantis Limited. And we'd like to invite Mr. Sujan Rajaratna, please, to come up on stage. The Deputy
General Manager of Finance of Advantis PL. So we say thank you to our presenters as well, and allow them to resume their seats. Although we might ask Mr. Yaqub to remain because he has more duties to complete as presenter. To join him, we'd like to invite Mr. Bhaskar Ranjandas, the Associate Director for South Asia for CIMA.
Now, it was mentioned earlier on when Jude was speaking that there's a great deal of hard work that has been done over a long period of time. By who? The committee. So this is an opportunity for us all to say thank you very much to the committee, the organizing committee. So we start off with the chairperson, Manohari Abesekara. This time is a recipient.
Also on the committee is Priyanthi De Silva. And so we say thank you very much to her as well for her hard work. Ravin Dimel is recognized also.
Ravin Dimel.
And Charit Leela Ratna.
Charit will be followed by Daham Veerasinghe. Daham Veerasinghe. Surangi Veerkon follows. Thank you.
And she is followed by Charit Yalagala. Thanks also to Samalka Aturalia.
Not present, and finally.
And Suranga Bandara.
So that's our committee, the organizing committee of this particular. Thank you very much. We say to both of you, gentlemen. And the last word, as the saying has it, belongs to the country head, CIMA Sri Lanka, Zahara Ansari, who we now invite to the lecture.
This is the age of disruption. Without disruptions in life, where would we be? Honorable Prime Minister, Members of Parliament, our keynote speaker, Mr. Mohit Pandey, Chairman of CIMA Mehsana Regional Board, Mr. Kabiruzzaman Yaqub, fellow CIMA members, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of CIMA Sri Lanka, it is a privilege and a great joy for me to propose a vote of thanks today. We wish to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for gracing this occasion as the chief guest and for standing by his words to assist the business leaders in making Sri Lanka one of the strongest economies in Asia. In his words, a hub in the Indian Ocean. Thank you, Mr. Mohit Pandey, for your inspiring keynote address. We live in exciting times indeed, and I'm sure the business leaders present here today have gained much from your presentation, especially about machine learning. We've had a number of eminent and eloquent speakers and panelists joining us earlier in the day today, all of who delivered interesting thoughts and action points in dealing with the radical changes impacting all of us, be it our businesses or our communities. From technology to climate change. We've heard of how disruption can be used to our advantage and also how sustainability is much more than a buzzword. Thank you, dear speakers, for sharing your important findings and presentations with us. This event could not have been pulled off without the financial support of our sponsors, who you've seen being recognized a while ago. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen, Ms. Manohari Abhesekara, the chairperson of the organizing committee, has been the driving force behind this event. She, along with her committee, have spent countless days and evenings at the division at the CIMA office. And of course, a very big thank you to the CIMA staff as well, who've been right behind her, right behind the rest of the committee in bringing this event together. We thank you all for being here with us today, especially all of us fellow CIMA members and our distinguished invitees who've accepted our invitation and being here with us today. So it's been a great pleasure. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
We now have a chance for what is commonly known as a photo opportunity. So we'd like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister back on stage, along with the members of the organizing committee.
And for those of you who have seen photographs being taken before, please don't hesitate. Enjoy the cocktail which has been served outside. It's not part of the evening's entertainment. There we are. What we needed to say was those who are exiting need to use the left entrance, or exit rather, to enter the area where the cocktails are. So just keep that in mind, the left area. Thank you. I suppose we were not explicit enough or clear enough. The cocktails are being served in the atrium lobby upstairs. So when it says the left exit and up the stairs to the atrium, that's where the cocktails are made ready for your enjoyment and partaking.